Look, well, let's talk about Bedford. We're in Bedford, and I've brought you back to Bedford. Like, this is your life, because you grew up in Bedford. Well, you went to school in Bedford.
I came to school here. I came here to board when I was 9.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, at Bedford School, not Bedford Modern School, and that's a big deal, or it was at the time, which one you were at.
Right.
I came, and I was here till I was 18. So until I lived where I am now, it's the longest time I'd ever been in a place was Bedford.
Wow. I mean, it's hard. I think we have talked about this before, but it is so harsh that it's 9 years old. I mean, that's how old my daughter is.
It's weird more than anything else. It's a very weird thing going boarding. Yeah. And you're sort of pitched in with all these other boys, and you all don't know each other. And then there's a I mean, Lord of the Flies does not require a nuclear accident to make it happen, to make public school boys fight with each other. I mean, fucking hell. I mean, it was, and then I was here till I was 18, so I sort of lived here but didn't live here. You have this weird relationship with the place when you board in it, because you live in it but you don't live in it. You go home but you're here most of the time. So I'm very ambivalent about the place. I'll be honest with you.
You've been round. Did you go to Wagamama's just now?
I went to Wagamama's, which is on Riverside.
Wow.
There's a. I don't know if you know, if you're familiar with Bedford Riverside, which has a Wagamama and a restaurant called Bridges opposite the bridge.
Right.
Never changed, Bedford. and sort of brick buildings that have been scrubbed up. I mean, I'm sure at the weekends it's a thronging hive of stuff.
I went the other way when I came. I went to, is it Silver Street? I went to Costa on Silver Street, where River Island has closed down and Debenhams has closed down, and they haven't been refilled yet. So there's a website saying "We love Bedford" or something on them. Love Bedford, it's good.
But not that much.
Please love us.
We love Bedford, but we're not going to commit to you.
So you've played this room over many years ago.
I mean, I first played here it would have been 40 years ago with Bedfordshire County Youth Second Orchestra.
Right.
In percussion, and we were up in that corner over there. I mean, it's quite weird being here, because when we came on just now, there's a very, very low door frame, and Beck, Rich's tour manager, said, "Mind your head here." And I'm thinking, yeah, I know this from when I whacked my fucking head on it 40 years ago. I mean, and we were in that corner up there, and we did. There was a really amazing youth music scene in Bedford. I mean, there really was. I know that Keir Starmer last week went on about how he played the flute when he was a boy.
Yeah.
I categorically did play the flute. I bet he played it really boringly, but there we are. And there was an amazing youth music scene here. So the guy who ran it, we were doing like a New Year's Day Viennese waltz concert in here, like for the people of Bedford who weren't interested. Right? And, with champagne, and the idea is people were meant to waltz. So we would play Strauss waltzes really to the best of our ability. But anyway, so the first time I ever came here was up in that corner, and we played Ravel's Bolero.
Nice.
So I was one of the snare drummers, and we had this thing where we were made to take turns, because it's about 8 or 9 or 10 minutes long, and there's a ostinato snare drum figure, repeated snare drum figure.
Yeah.
That's got
to be hard to keep up.
And you start piano forte, so 3 Ps, and you end up fortissimo, 3 Fs, all the way through it. So we would take turns. And what happened is that in the rehearsal in the afternoon, the two tutors, teachers, who would have been guys in there, thinking about it now, who were incredibly worldly and sophisticated, would have been guys sort of in their late 20s.
Yeah.
When used to be the Turk's Head, the pub next door, or the Saracen's Head, I can't remember. I mean, can't call them that anymore. And they basically started a stopwatch when we started the rehearsal, and timed it in the rehearsal, and then at the concert, because they had to come on at the end and go bash with the cymbals and thump with the bass drum. They timed it, and as soon as we started, they went out that door, and they went to the pub, and they came back in, and they'd written 2 on the score, which meant there was time for 2 pints. And we're like getting to the end, and we know it's the end, you know, because you're thinking, well, there's 16 bars to go, and suddenly they appeared. All right, boys. It's really fantastic. Me and Kester Sims, the other snare drummer. It was really good fun, all that.
Oh, I'm glad you got happy memories of boarding school.
Happy memories, yeah.
To go with all the being bummed by everyone.
No, there was.
You were being bummed.
You see.
And eating biscuits with spunk on them, and that's what you had to do, wasn't it?
I can only speak for myself, but zero bumming.
Okay.
What can I tell you?
Well, that's not going to make a memoir, is it?
No. I don't want to buy that memoir either. Al Murray, Zero Bumming. A boarding school memoir.
It is weird. I had Lem Sissay on recently, who, like, it's a very different, very, very different story, and a really terrible story. He grew up in with a foster family, but his foster family, they sort of, when he got to 12, they sort of sent him out. You know, he was his family for his whole life, and they sort of sent him back into the care system. They decided they'd had 3 kids or 4 kids, and they decided they didn't want him anymore. Enough was
enough, God.
And really manipulated him to make him think it was his fault, and it was really horrible. But it sort of reminded, you know, it made me think of as horrible as that is, going to the care system. It sort of thought, but all those guys who went through boarding school, and Boris Johnson and Charles Spencer, who's
just written a shocking stuff that happened to him. Yeah. I mean, I don't know, because the other thing is there were 6 boarding houses, so maybe my house, as run by Ken Parkinson and his wife Enid, was all right, and maybe the other. I just don't know. Although I think we'd have all heard about it. Is the thing. I think the boys would have all told each other, but who knows?
Well, I don't know. I know I read Aid Edmondson's book. Have you read Aid Edmondson's book?
No, I've not. You see, I'm a bit because the thing is I found it very hard when I first went. I'd write to my mum 3 times a week. Yeah. And these letters are going, I just want to go home and I can't bear it, and tell her that, all these sort of, because the thing is that the sort of cogs of the pecking order would always be turning, and I wasn't good at sport at school, which just sort of didn't help. Because if you could get on with being good at rugby, you could get on with having status and all that sort of thing. Yeah. So it's all a bit weird. But I know I really didn't like it to start with. But by the end, by the 6th form, it was brilliant. Yeah. Because you weren't at home with your mum and dad. We'd all sorted out our differences, and you knew who your friends were. And this evening, when I went to Riverside for my Wagamama, there's a bunch of friends that we're all still in touch. I was messaging them going, I'm in Bedford, there's a Wagamama, you won't believe it, boys. It's all really sweet, and it's the same crew that I hung around in my 6th form and got into doing performing and writing and a bit of music then,
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fine. I think as a teenager, it seems like a great idea. Just like the idea of rejecting something, the idea, it feels like, and even if you're explained to and it's, you don't feel it, it would be so weird to think of me going to my daughter, right?
Off you go.
I think she might be okay with it, to be honest, but she's sort of ready to move out. But it would be such a weird thing to do. But Aid Edmondson's book's really weird for me, because he went to Pocklington School, which was where my dad was the teacher, and I actually didn't think they were the same time, and then I realised it would have been the same time.
Oh my God.
So I was reading this book and he had a horrible time, and I was thinking, oh my God, I'm going to turn the page and find out
how amazing.
Shitty maths teacher Mr. Herring. But it didn't happen, thankfully.
Did he change the name?
He might have done.
To some other aquatic creature.
Sort of, I had to think, because my granddad was a headmaster in Middlesbrough. And I was at book launch for my brother.
Did your family just go wherever the teaching was?
They did. Well, they were. It might be. Yeah, no, they lived in Middlesbrough, so that's where my parents were born. I was at my brother-in-law's partner is from Middlesbrough, and he's written a very amazing book about Victorian gay men in Victorian England.
Wow.
Tom Crew, I went to the book launch, and all his aunties were there. And they all went to my granddad's. They were all at my granddad's primary school, and they all said he was horrible and mean. Which I found hilarious, but they were really, I think they might have mixed him up. I don't think he was. I think he
probably was.
But I think I think he was a very nice man, my grand. I can't imagine. But as a kid, you'd be scared of the headmaster.
Yeah.
But it was quite funny to kind of have that. And the fact they told me as well. They went, "Oh God, we hated him."
Well, I suppose does it matter anymore? I don't know. I mean, no, yeah. I mean, we would all like hide from games. Me and this group of guys.
Yeah.
Because there's a theatre at the school. They've got a new one now, but there was a theatre at the school and there was a green room, and we would literally hide in there from having to play games, and ended up hanging out. And the drama teacher sort of knew, and we all ended up doing plays and all that sort of stuff in our sixth form, which was amazing. Really, it's sort of really why I ended up. Yeah. Performing, because it felt like a straight line when I got to university. It felt like a straight line from what we'd be doing pissing about to doing sketch stuff at uni.
Yeah.